The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism, taught that God's most powerful influence comes not through direct action, but through conscious and deliberate restraint. God's most direct influence is not through direct action, but through restraint, holding back. He illustrated this, the Baal Shem Tov did, with a simple yet profound metaphor, and I've shared it before, but I really love it, about teaching a child how to walk. A caring parent encourages their child to take a few steps forward. And then what does the parent do? The parent steps back. And the child, realizing that that first step is now going to require another one, steps forward. The parent stepping back creates space for growth, space for resilience and independence. This act of stepping back, rather than swooping in, it allows the child to develop the strength to move forward. And throughout their lives, we as parents continue to step back a little bit so that they can step forward. Sometimes we run back in. This week's Torah portion, Tetzaveh, it is itself a study in stepping back, a study in leaving space for something new to emerge. Tetzaveh is the only Torah portion in the latter 4 books of the Torah where Moses' name is absent. From Shemot through Bamidbar, Moses is the central human character. I should say from Shemot through Devarim, really. Moses is the central character except here, except in this parsha. The Torah, by momentarily stepping back from Moses, invites us to step in, to listen more closely, to step into the seemingly empty space, and to discover new and exciting possibilities. And perhaps the most fascinating layer to this omission is the timing of the whole thing. Because this parsha almost always coincides with the 7th of Adar, which is tomorrow, which according to tradition is both the anniversary of Moses' death and his birthday. It is as if on his birthday, Moses is given a glimpse of what the story would be like without him in it. But this is not a punishment, but rather it's a profound lesson. God, like that parent teaching a child how to walk, God is showing Moses and us what happens when a leader steps back to make room for others to grow. The opening words of the parsha that Aaron's going to chant tomorrow, I'm not sure if you're chanting this part, but the opening words of the parsha are, "And as for you," which is referring to Moses, "you shall further instruct the Israelites." But instead of using Moses' name, the text simply says, "as for you." Now, some commentators, Robert Alter, who wrote a book that I only read after I graduated from seminary, don't tell my professors that, notes that this phrase sounds detached, even impersonal. But perhaps this absence is actually intentional. Just as Moses had previously told God, because if you remember, Moses tells God at one point, after the golden calf, "erase me from your book," when pleading on behalf of the Israelites after the golden calf incident. And here we see that God does what Moses challenges him to. In a way, he honors that request, God, not he. God honors that request, but only for one parsha, not the entire Torah. It is as if God momentarily is demonstrating to Moses what the world would look like if Moses was no longer leading it. And yet, even in his absence, Moses' impact is deeply felt. Tetzaveh, this parsha, describes the ordination of Aaron, a different Aaron, but you could become a rabbi too. Although some have said it's not a job for a nice Jewish child. I don't know. Describes the ordination of Aaron and his sons, the creation of the priesthood, a leadership structure that will endure far beyond Moses' time. This shift teaches us something crucial. There is more than one way to lead and more than one way to serve. Not everyone can be Moses, and not everyone should be Moses. Korach taught us that. In fact, that's not even the Jewish objective, that we all grow up to be Moses. But everyone can be of service. Everyone does have something to contribute. When I was considering becoming a rabbi, which coming up on 25 years now, I went to my own rabbi, Rabbi Jerry Raskin of blessed memory, and I confided in him a hesitation that I had. I said to him that I'd never really heard a direct calling from God to become a rabbi. And I wasn't sure that I could become a rabbi because of that, because I hadn't experienced a divine summons like the prophets of old. But without missing a beat, Rabbi Raskin reassured me, and he said, "That's not how it works with us." I think he was including me in the rabbi part of us. Could have been the Jewish people, I don't know. He explained that rabbis, at least the ones that he knew and admired, were not called by God. They were called by the community to serve. And this lesson, it is echoed in the structure of the ancient Israelite leadership that we read about in the Parashat. While Moses was unique, the priesthood ensured that leadership would actually be distributed, not so unique. The detailed descriptions of the Kohanim and the Levites in the Torah show us that while different roles exist, everyone had a part to play in sustaining Jewish life. That the responsibility to serve does not rest on one person's shoulders alone, but on all of ours. Albert Schweitzer once said, "I do not know what your destiny will be, but one thing I know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve others." You're only happy if you find ways to serve others. This sentiment speaks to the heart of Tetzaveh, to your Torah portion, Aaron, and you are one who serves others also through your kindness, your mitzvot, your tzedakah. By taking a step back, Moses and God invite us to take a step forward and to discover our own capacity to act and to serve. On a personal level, this absence of Moses teaches us about the role of mentors and parents and teachers in our lives. A parent who never steps back cannot equip their child with the ability to stand on their own. A teacher who never lets a student wrestle with a question deprives them of the opportunity to learn. And leaders must eventually create space for the next generation to step up. I look at our BBYO leaders over there and reminding them of that. To create space. Tetzaveh is that moment in the Torah, a pause that forces us to consider what comes next. On a societal level, the Jewish mystical tradition calls this process tzimtzum, the act of divine contraction, God reducing God's self. The idea is that in order to create the world, God had to withdraw from it. God had to make space for humanity to exist and to thrive. Similarly, throughout history, leaders have had to step back to create space for others to step forward, to emerge. And this is a reminder that leadership is not just about taking charge, it is also about knowing when to step aside so that others can grow. And on a particularly personal level, a more intimate level, the act of stepping back so that we can gain perspective touched me deeply this past week as my family mourned the death of my beloved mother-in-law, Susan Mishler. As I sat next to Sharon and Arthur and watched them recite Kaddish morning, afternoon, and evening during Shiva, and again at Susan's graveside, I was struck by the intentional choreography of the mourners' movement at the end of the prayer. As they reached that verse, Oseh Shalom B'Romav, the mourner takes a step back and looks to their left and looks to their right and looks down and looks up. My rabbi, Rabbi Raskin, once taught me that this motion is a reminder that much like Moses' absence in our Parsha, that stepping back allows us to see the full significance of a life, the space left behind, the impact of those who have gone before us. And the focus here is not on the absence of the deceased, but on the presence of the mourner, on their role in carrying forward the love and the lessons and the legacy of those that we have lost. Grief requires us to step back for a time, to acknowledge the pain of a loss. But ultimately, we must step forward again. Just as at the end of Kaddish, we are called back into life. Just as Moses' absence challenges us to step into leadership, we are called to re-enter our communities with renewed purpose, to re-enter our families with a new sense of direction. The ones that we have lost would not want our lives to stop because theirs have ended. They would want us to step forward, to continue the work that they can no longer do, and to honor them by living with meaning and with love and dedication. Torah does not call us to be prophets. Torah does not call us to be Moseses. It calls us to be a kingdom of priests, a community of people dedicated to serving others. We do not walk in Moses' exact footsteps, but we follow Moses' path toward a world of greater meaning, a world of greater purpose, a world of greater justice. Like a child stepping toward a parent, or a mourner returning to the rhythms of daily life, we move forward, not alone, but with the wisdom, love, and presence of those who walked before us and who continue to guide our every step. May their memories be a blessing and continue to be a lesson. Shabbat Shalom. Our service continues. Page 586 will rise for a